Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical, informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do. Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager. What's up, Corey? What's up, Reggie?
What's going on?
Lord. Dr. Kev, what's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
All right, let me give it a couple of minutes to give a few more people to come in. If you all want to go to my page and share it now, you can go ahead and share the live stream now. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Let's see if we can have a good conversation tonight. That's all I want to do. There we go. Here come the shares. And everybody that's tuning in now, as you come in the room, if you would, please share it as well. Share this stream or tag Fine Fathers. I'm going to go ahead and replay this again. I got to get all my shares off. Sending me friends. Let's know you all, so they want to send me friends real quick. Here they come. They're coming. Come on, dude. I'm gonna learn how to run my Dr. Corey. I'm gonna learn how to run my music through the main system and not my phone one of these days. What's up, Ashley? All right, so we got about 35, 40 more seconds. 8 people in the chat so far. Listen, everybody that's in the chat, do me a favor. Share this video or tag 5 Fathers. Tag 5 Fathers, or even tag some baby mamas. Some baby mamas need to hear this conversation tonight. We want harmony and peace tonight. That's what we want to leave with some good understanding. Put tag their names. Say hello. Don't be a stranger. Don't be rude. Come in, say hi. Let me know you're here. What's up, Ashley? Ashley said, "Evening, gentlemen." Ashley's normally one of my co-hosts, but it's all men tonight. It is all men tonight. All right. So listen, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. It's 9:04. And we want to have a good, productive conversation tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and get this started. First of all, I want to welcome welcome back, Dr. Kevin. You've been here before, Dr. Kevin. Y'all, Reggie and C. Ray Morris. I'm gonna introduce you formally in a second. But Dr. Kevin came in and he was like Father of the Year with some of the stories that he told. And we're gonna get into his story in a minute because he's 47, 48, Doc.
48 now.
48 with a 3-year-old. 48 with a 3-year-old. So he's parenting. He started over. So we're gonna look at his whole little piece in a minute. But listen, we got C. Ray Morris, my homeboy from he's we went to school together at Pine Bluff, Arkansas. But I think you're from Morrilton, right?
That's right.
All right, from Morrilton, Arkansas. So we used to be in the choir together under the late great, and a tear will come to my eye by saying this, is the late great Shelton McGee. And he was a man for real. And so we got some of the same teachings and upbringing. So we got some of the same DNA. And he's doing great things around the world. And we're going to introduce him, let him introduce himself even more throughout the conversation going forward. But he is he's the pastor, the proud pastor of the Bethel Baptist Church of Brooklyn, New York. I said that wrong earlier today, and he corrected me so gracefully, and I appreciate that. he didn't shine on me, but he texted me and said, "No, Doc, fix that." But yeah, introduce yourself, Doc. Tell him who you are.
Well, yeah, you said it. We've been friends a long time, and I'm glad to be on here with you, and glad that you are taking initiative to help us be better fathers. And I think this conversation needs to be had. But again, I'm from Morrilton, Arkansas. Population about 7,000, and went to college at UAPB, got my undergrad degree, and graduated and began to pastor in 2002, at which time I got into seminary, and graduated with a MTS and an MDiv from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary of Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh my!
And I'm currently in my third pastoral assignment at the Bethel Baptist Church of Brooklyn, New York. My second church was the Morning Star Baptist Church in Kankakee, Illinois. And my first church was the 34th Street Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. And
all right.
Love all those churches, love those people. But my greatest joy throughout all of it has been fathering my two daughters.
All right,
Chloe and Kylie.
Put a pin right there, because we're gonna play with that in a minute. Because you said you pastored 3 churches, so we're gonna put a pin right there. Now I want to introduce my next homeboy. Well, he's not my homeboy. He's from Atlanta. I guess. No, you're from South Carolina, Reggie, right?
No, from Appling, Georgia.
Oh, Appling, Georgia. Okay. Mm-hmm. So introduce yourself. I know he is he's an athletic director in the AP Atlanta Public Schools. But go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll tell everybody how we met going farther as well.
Like I said before, I'm from Appling, Georgia. Went to school at Clemson University, then transferred to South Carolina State University. Played football there, graduated from there. Then I came to Atlanta, started teaching, got into coaching. Also during that time, I had my first son, Xavier, while I was in college.
Okay.
So kind of started early and learning how to be a dad. And once I got to Atlanta, ended up getting my leadership degree from Kennesaw State University. And I've been the athletic director for now, maybe 16 years, 17 years, maybe a little more. Lost count now, but definitely has been a joy. I have 2 daughters as well and 3 boys. I also started over, have a 2-year-old in February.
Huh?
Yeah, have a 2-year-old in February. So like I said, just been a joy, man, just watching the kids grow. Definitely made some mistakes along that path, but definitely enjoyed just being a father, man, and just growing up and just seeing how far they didn't came.
All right. Now Reggie's and my son played baseball together, and Reggie's son actually went to Georgia Tech and has since been drafted by the Cleveland Indians, and he's rapidly rising through their organization. And I want to talk about some of those things, Reggie, tonight, because I know you had to make some decisions throughout the course of his career. So we want to talk about some of those things, because that's part of parenting as well. All right, what's up, Dr. Kevin Flight? Hey, y'all, let me tell y'all something. When I say that's my dude, Kevin Flight is my dude, man. You talking about somebody that's taking care of me. I mean, he has taught me about because he's a chiropractor, and he owns a chiropractic care center here in Marietta, Georgia. And he came to the dealership, my dealership I used to work at several years ago, and we just became friends. And we've been friends pretty much ever since then. Probably 8 years. He's taking care of all 3 of my children. when they had injuries and whatnot. So that's my dude. So we got Dr. Kevin. Introduce yourself right quick, and we're gonna get into your story too, because I got a lot to get in tonight, and we'll get as much as we can because I can't make part twos now on shows because I've already scheduled it like for the first 2 or 3 months. So I'm sorry I can't do part twos. So come on, talk to me, Dr. Kev.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Kevin Flythe, and as James so kindly introduced me into that point, in the sense as a great friend, but I consider Good James as a phenomenal brother to me. We've been very open and transparent. So anytime I have the opportunity to come upon this platform, I welcome it. I practice here in Marietta, Georgia. Been practicing now for 21 years. It's been my passion. So really, I look at the way that my practice operates as more of a ministry than the idea of a job or a business. So the other side of it, I moved here in 1996 from actually Durham, North Carolina. I'm originally from North Carolina, and grew up between North Carolina and Virginia all my life. So good Southern homeboy, if you will, but then with a little bit of small tidbit of a northern flair in there, here and there. But as you can see in the background, James always gives me a fit because I'm a good Kappa man too. So I had to represent this evening, and the point of that was just a simple T-shirt for my good brothers that might be out there that I asked to be on here. Pressure makes diamonds. So I look forward to us talking about how we can raise our children in the proper way, and even more so the idea of raising our sons to be awesome men.
Absolutely. And somebody in the comments, Nicholas Sanders already said, "What's up, Fi?" and Pressure makes diamond. Here, Carlos Wallace now he's saying, "Yo, Noop." So look like y'all thick in the comments. Hey, listen, but y'all do me a favor, everybody. We're going to jump into the conversation because everybody has introduced themselves. Y'all, we did that quick 9. And let me tell y'all this: I appreciate each and every one of you guys because when I tuned in, y'all were already tuned in. That's crazy. I mean, y'all 5 minutes in, everybody was set up, ready to go. I mean, so orderly and everything. It was just ready to have an organic conversation. And I'm cool. And y'all, this is gonna be as organic. I got a couple of notes. Y'all, those that know me, it's kind of hard for me to go by notes. But I got a couple of notes tonight. But most of this conversation is gonna be organic. But everybody that's in the chat, if you will, go ahead and share this thread. If you don't, either share the thread or tag 5 baby mamas or baby daddies. That should be everybody. So just tag 5 people and let's get them in this conversation. Listen, my end goal in any conversation that I have is to produce something that's going to eventually create reconciliation between black males and black females. Because I think that's what, if we want to really cure the chasms that exist in our communities, I think the way to do that is by, first of all, stopping us from fighting one another, because the infighting is what keeps us from going farther a lot of times. So tonight, let me do my little quick introduction. Tonight, we've come to debunk some of the myths that exist regarding black men and their role in the home. I remember when I was younger, Corey, my dad told me that black males would one day become extinct. He said whether through drugs, through the graveyard, through incarceration, there would be a certain segment of men that would be taken out of society. It didn't make sense to me, but my daddy said it, so it had to be true. Okay, so looking now through 2022 lenses and looking back at what my pops has said, a lot of what he said has come true because when you look at how the world has been adversely affected, I don't want to quote the statistics because we hear those all the time, so I don't want to really give a platform to those negative statistics because a lot of them really haven't been researched. And when they hadn't really been researched, then we really believe most narratives that we've been taught. But traditionally, black men do take care of their children. They're just I understand there are bad situations, but on the whole, black men take care of the children. So when racist narratives like the absent black father myth go unchallenged in research, media, and pop culture, they ultimately serve as justification, watch this, for punitive policies that harm black families and ultimately all families. Because then what we say is because they don't take care of their children, then we put precursors and measurements in place to further destruct and destroy our families because we believe those narratives. Then we're going to be insensitive when things start to happen to our families. So things we know for sure. Number one, death does not discriminate. We see young people dying all the time. Another thing we've seen us be the victims of police brutality. See that all the time. We understand that prisons have become privatized and that punishment is profitable, because what happens is people of color are typically the target audience on some people's portfolios now. So with that being said, a certain segment has been segregated from society, and a gulf or a gap has been created, leaving homes without fathers, husbands, grandfathers, uncles, and women have assumed the role and have done their very best that they can do, but there's still something missing, because the majority of African American homes are led by who? Women. And Black women are leaving marriages at a more rapid rate than those who are getting married. And what is happening is the end result is a child being raised without two parents in the home. But understand this, and this is why I'm going to say this. This is why this is going to be the foundation of our conversation. Just because both parents aren't in the home doesn't mean that both parents can't be in their lives. And that's the key. We got to make sure that even if we're not in the home, that we still continue to be in the children's lives. So on tonight, I wanted to highlight these three gentlemen who understand the importance of being an intricate part of their children's lives, despite distance, despite gender, despite circumstances. We want to listen to the stories of a pastor who has daughters in a different state, but has not allowed that to be a barrier. We want to hear the story of an athletic director who has his own children, but has to be a subliminal parent to an entire organization, and some of which who don't have fathers, and some of which who don't have fathers. And just wait until you hear Dr. Flythe's story. So I'm excited, and that's my little soapbox to get this thing started. So let's go. Y'all ready? All right. So Corey, you already said. I mean, well, like I said, we're gonna call him Corey tonight, y'all. He's a pastor. He's well known all across the world, but we're gonna call him Corey tonight. Okay, Corey, tell me again, how many children do you have, and what are their genders and ages?
Yeah, I have two daughters, biological daughters. One is Chloe. She is 22, and Kylie is, I think she's 18 now, 18 and 19. Yeah.
She listening. If she's listening, she's gonna check you in a few minutes. If you get a text reminder you, you know.
Yeah.
All right, Reggie. What's the same with you? What same question?
I have three boys and two girls. Oldest is 23, 20, 17, 15, and then the youngest is 2. So,
Boy, you just took the air out of me when you said 2 again. I had to take a deep breath on that one, Jack. But no, that's a blessing. No, children are a blessing, and so you and Kevin can really talk on that one, because y'all can relate big time. Yeah. All right, Kevin, tell me what you got, and we're gonna get into your story, because I really want everybody to really hear your story. But go ahead, give me the ages and genders of your children.
Well, I have a 31-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Actually, she just turned 31 on 2 days ago. So started way young in life. I have a 27-year-old son that I raised as mine, but we'll talk about that situation in that point. But he'll be 28 tomorrow.
Okay.
And then I have a 3-year-old son, which is my start over. But then again, one of the greatest gifts and blessings of my life.
Man, I can say when I watch you post your pictures, it's amazing just to see the joy in your face. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. I know. Who was it? Jacob had a special affinity for his youngest child. You know what I mean? But so it makes me wonder if you have a child of your old age. I mean, how you look at them a little bit different. But I don't want to find out. I'm gonna be honest with you. My babies are 23, 19, 18, and she just graduated high school early. She's supposed to graduate in May, but she got on out of there in December, and I'm super proud of her. So now, Reggie, you said you got 3 boys and 2 girls.
Yep.
Do you find it different parenting girls versus boys?
Most definitely. I mean, of course, the girls are going to kind of tug at your heart a little more than the boys, because they're girls. So you kind of treat them a little differently. Boys, you try to raise them to be men and grow up to be men. But you know, the girls always know how to get what they want out of their dad. So you know how that goes with your daughters. I know you with your daughters because I done seen your daughters at the games and things of that nature. So I know how that is when you got daughters. You know, as a dad, you know they tug at you because you know how the world is. So you want to kind of shield them kind of a little bit, and then you want to also kind of prepare them for what they're going to run into as they get out in the real world. So.
Really? So now, what did you say the ages of your girls are again?
17 and 15.
Oh, 17. Oh, yeah, you right there. You right there.
Yeah.
Now, Corey, you've raised 2 girls. I mean, so I don't know. You probably don't have the experience, I guess, of having boys in the home. But what is it? And you've raised your children, you've raised your daughters from out of state and whatnot. But the thing, and let me say this to everybody that's listening, please. And like I said, please either like the post, share the post, or tag some fathers for me. Let's go ahead and get some people in this conversation. Hey, Shantae. But Corey, the reason I've asked all you gentlemen to be on the show is because I've watched you parent from afar. Corey, I've watched you show up for graduations and recitals and and proms and all these types of things. And Corey, y'all, how many revivals do you think you do a year, Corey? Before pre-pandemic?
About 12 to 15.
So 15 revivals a year, not to mention conferences and all those types of things, not to mention state and national events and all those types of things. And he pastors a church as a single man. So he has a bride, which is the church. He has the responsibility as a pastor of being the spiritual parents to those at the church, but he has to balance all of that and still be a parent to Callie and what's the other baby, and Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me, how has that been being pastoring out of state and trying to be there and be a support system and all those things and watching them grow into young adulthood? But like you said, they're 23 and 18 now. How has that process been for you?
Well, let me just be honest and just kind of break the ice with realness. Unfortunately, my marriage ended in divorce.
Okay.
And I never married in the church to end up in court,
okay,
getting divorced. But unfortunately, it happened, and it put my daughters in a very precarious position. The 2 adults made decisions that the children had to deal with and put up with and survive and grow through and learn from and all of that. And so that was the first strain on my children, that divorcing meant that we were going to live in separate homes.
Okay.
But then the greater challenge would come later when the Lord called me to pastor a church in Illinois, in Kankakee, which is in the Chicago land suburbs. The newsman called it the southernmost suburb of Chicago.
Gotcha.
And it broke my heart because it meant that I could not be physically with my children on a daily basis. And I really wrestled with that and struggled with that. And it was clear to me that God was calling me to pastor in Illinois. And so just wrestled with it. And me and God had some pretty tough conversations. But I asked him, though, if this is what he wanted me to do, that I didn't want for the relationship between me and my girls to be fractured. I didn't want any distance to grow between us. I wanted for us to know.
Uh-oh. He froze a little bit. Corey, you still there? Corey,
yeah.
Corey, you froze on us a little bit. You back now, though.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said you wanted them to know, and then that was the last thing we heard.
I didn't want us to be disconnected at all. I didn't want there to be any kind of division or divide that would grow between my girls and I. And I asked God, to protect our relationship and and I asked him to keep us close knit, that I was going to do my part, but certainly being out of state, I was going to run into considerable challenges trying to be present while the majority of the time I'm absent physically.
Wow.
But the Lord, he helped me, man. My daughters and we're very close, and they call me all the time, and they're to the place now where they talk to me about real life things, and I can get that call at any part of the day, But it's been a challenge, but it's also given me an opportunity to show them how much I love them by
Wow.
being there when they weren't expecting for me to be there.
Oh yeah.
Showing up unannounced at big events in their lives, and I've just done the best that I could. And it's easy to do when you love them.
That's okay. Wow. That's
and and what motivates me most as a father is that I'm driven by my end.
okay.
The pandemic has taught us that life is uncertain, death is for sure, and I want my kids to be prepared, and I want them to be able to handle life when I'm gone.
Well, you're gonna have to unpack that "driven by my end" thing. Come on, say that again.
Well,
Unpack
that's
that
what
a little bit more.
I've told my kids many times, not to scare them, but just to sober them, and it really has made them listen to me a little more.
Mhm.
I have told them, your dad is not going to be on this earth forever. And that makes them listen to me. They listen a little more intent. I can see when they're really into what I'm trying to. So I'm just trying to prepare them to deal with this world.
Okay.
And so my departure date is it really pushes me to do all I can to give them a foundation in God and to prepare them for life.
Wow.
See, the distance from my children physically has reinforced to me that there will be an eventual distance where we can't come see each other.
Jesus.
Yeah, and
That's good, man.
but giving them everything, knowing that I've taught them, knowing that I've raised them, knowing that I have given them the foundation, so that when I finally close my eyes, I know that they will be all right. And that's yeah.
That's
I don't
good.
want to take up all the time.
No, Doc. We on for 2 hours as long as y'all stay with me. So we're gonna let me tell you something. I don't have a plan. I have a plan but most of my plans are contingencies. You know what I'm saying? I just want the conversation to end up where the conversation ends up. Now, I want to make a quick segue right quick, because I listened to your story and you said, Reggie said he had his first one in college. You were married, had your two, and unfortunately it ended in divorce, but you initially were in the home and you watched those babies grow up. You just had to figure out how to make it work. Now, Dr. Kevin's story is different. Dr. Kevin's story is, and I want him to tell first, Kevin, y'all, and give me a little grace. Give me a little grace with Kevin right quick, because I want him to really unpack his story for the view, so that the viewers can understand what he's saying. Kevin, first tell the story of your 28-year-old son. You tell us in your words.
Well, with my soon-to-be 28-year-old son, with that process, that was a little tough. I was in college at the time, and it was amazing in the fact that the young lady that I had been interested in since high school, which was kind of crazy, chasing here and seeing her there, things of that nature. I came home one summer in the point of that, and she told me she was pregnant. And I know I had only been in that situation and being transparent, one time prior to, and I was trying to put the timeline together, but needless to say, I stood in the gap in that point and stepped up when she told me that, because just being honest, her first thought process was abortion. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. So just understanding that, going through that process and then being in college, and then here it is the summer and going back into a new year of school, and, she's pregnant. So I went through that whole process and went through everything with her. And as that point came across, I mean, even driving in the snow, taking her to the doctor. And it's nothing against her, but being in college, we do things. I mean, it just is what it is. But when he was born actually on my father's birthday. So I consider him to be a godsend child. He was due January 17th and he was born January 12th. And I met this young lady via my father, and just our families were kind of intertwined. It was crazy. Her mom was like our credit union lady, and then her dad was our gas man. So here it is, northeastern North Carolina and southern Virginia. It ain't much to do in those areas as I'll progress, as far as part of my two oldest children, but to do one or two things: play sports, work in the field somewhere, find your job, or either find your way up a dirt path or down a dirt path, and learning about life, and trying to just find out about life. And my mother and father worked all the time, so they love me, but I watched their relationship. So it's just a point of understanding the foundation and the principles of relationships. But ongoing with that, Jakari was born January 12th, 1994. I was actually online pledging Kappa at the time. I left school and told everyone, including my professors, I was an honor student and basically a university scholar at North Carolina Central University, and she was at Virginia State. So hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, I hopped in the car and I drove in the early hours of the morning to make sure I was there for him when he was born, and stayed until I brought him home from the hospital. But needless to say, over time, man, I was there, and stood in the position as father and everything else. But as time progressed, the gentleman that, unbeknown in that sense, later on I found out was his father.
Wow.
So I told, at that time, his mother, I was upset, I was hurt. And at that time, he was about to turn 3. But still in that part of it, I was still in that sense of being the man that I'm supposed to be, going to school, wanting to be the best that I could be. I had lost my father when I was 17 years old. So I had to honor my son. And in that thought process, I had to just think, what would my father do? So instead of holding spite and instead of being angry, I told her, even though we're part ways, we were engaged. So I'm thinking I'm gonna make this woman my wife. And come to find out, there I am at the university, and then I found out she has slipped off again. So like I said, when you're young and you're dumb, you do dumb things, and life itself will throw things before you and you want to experience it. But to this day, I don't hold any spite against her, because I told her, I said, as long as I'm alive and breathing, I'm his father.
Wow. Now, let me now listen. So I want those to hear, to clarify what he just said. He said she conceived, he picked her up at the hospital, was there for the birth, thought it was his child. At the age of 3 years old, he found out that he was not the biological father. The easy thing would have been to do, because he only had 3 years invested, would have been to walk out of that child's life. But as a man, Dr. Kevin Slade, that's why I want to debunk this myth that Black men don't take care of their families. Don't believe those narratives. That's just part of his testimony. We're gonna get back into that in a minute. And we'll go to your daughter in a minute. But let me ask some other questions. Reggie, most of us are products of orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually mirror what we saw growing up. Who was in your life and raised you and inspired you to become the father that you are now?
Truth be told, I didn't really know my dad growing up. I mean,
Okay.
I had my grandfather and my grandmother.
Okay.
So that's who I lived with. My mom, she remarried and got married to the guy that eventually, you know, as I got older, I started to look to more as me and my dad or whatnot. But I learned most of everything I got from my grandparents, man, from
Okay.
my grandma, my
Same here.
grandparents. So that's pretty much probably why I got the old soul or whatnot. But in terms of just taking care of, you know, in the country, I'm from the country. So it's like everybody in that neighborhood is family. So everybody take care of everybody.
Okay.
So, you know, I
That's good.
kind of learned from that. And then growing up without my dad, you know, no one coming to my games, no one there to support me or whatnot. I kind of knew if I ever did have a child, I would always do whatever I needed to do to make sure I'm there. So kind of just growing up and just watching my grandparents and just learning from them. So that kind of what drove me to be the father I am today.
Gotcha. Hey, Corey, Denise just asked a question, and it's in relation to what Kevin, the decision he made, and I have my answer, and it's not because this is just a personal thing, you know what I'm saying? But she said, and this I'm gonna pose this to you, Corey. So, and y'all in the comments, answer her question. It's 26 people in the chat right now. Denise asked this question. Y'all answer it. Let me know what you all think. But Corey, if a man chose not to continue on taking care of the child like Kevin did, does that strip him of being a good person or a good man? That's a question.
No, I don't think so.
Me neither.
I don't think that it makes him a bad person
No.
or any less than a man. But he is to be commended if he stays.
Exactly.
And you know, I don't mean to. Well, you know, I'm a pastor, preacher. But Joseph took care of a son that wasn't his, and raised him and gave him a trade, taught him how to build, make, and his name was Jesus. And so, you know,
I need hoop triggers. Yeah.
if Joseph had walked away from Christ, you know, then, you know, in his humanity, he would have had more struggles than he needed to have. But because Joseph was there and present, you know, and had the capacity. See, it's hard to get a man to function above his character.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. That's good.
if a man's character is here, you can't expect him to function here. And so Joseph had the capacity to father and take care of a boy that was not his.
Wow.
Just like Dr. Kevin Flight did.
Yes, sir.
You know, 3 years in, and we know, and if we're gonna be just honest, we know this has happened many times.
Yes, sir.
Many times.
Yes,
where,
sir.
You know, women, you know, say it's yours, and they put the guilt trip on you, and you got your inhibitions, especially if there was some extracurricular activities, you know, happening beyond the immediate parameter, and those men, they get in, they sign, and then later on the DNA says you are not the father.
Yeah.
You know, and so then we're struggling. Do I? The child needs me. You know, the mother is wrong, but the child needs me. And do I want this lifelong commitment now to a child that's not, this child needs his father, but the father's not here, and I'm here, and I have become emotionally attached. I have become, you know, mentally attached. You when I get up and think and do, I'm thinking about life, but the provider, the protector in me, the priest in me, it's thinking about how can I better position my children to be more successful than I.
That's good.
So it's a difficult position to be in, but I'll go back to say that you cannot ask a man to function above his character.
That's real good.
You,
That's real good.
you can't expect him to. He can
Mhm.
only function, at wherever his character is. And so thank God for men like Kevin Flife.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good. That's good. You cannot expect a man to function above his character. Somebody please write that in the comments. And Denise, that's a real good question. And I would have said you can get an A, but that might just be extra credit, And I think that's what Kevin got in that instance, was he got extra credit. So Kevin, okay? So Reggie, you said your grandparents played an intricate part and how you shaped your worldview as it relates to parenting. And Corey, I believe I heard you amen him on that one. Your parents,
Absolutely.
your grandparents raised you as well?
Yeah, that's my story, man. My father,
Thank you,
whom I
Corey.
know now, and we're good. I mean, it is what it is. But I only remember him being around a couple of times when I was a child. He made me promise a couple of promises he didn't keep.
Okay.
But I knew he was my dad, but I wasn't really affected because I had a father in my
Gotcha.
grandfather.
Yeah.
Just like Reginald, my daddy is in heaven now, Clifton Lee Robertson. He had 9 children of his own, took me in, and I became the 10th. And he raised me until I was nearly 10 years old. And so I had all kinds of foundation, from him. And so I didn't grow up bitter. I didn't miss anything.
Gotcha.
Now, in hindsight, as I've grown older, I've seen, where my father could have done better, but I hold no bitterness, no animosity to him whatsoever. I just want to be the best father that I can.
Gotcha. And listen, hey, anybody that might be listening to this stream now, whether it's on Spotify, on Apple podcast, whatever it is, listen to what he said. He holds no bitterness towards his father. We got to stop letting people put wedges in these relationships that really didn't. You most of you got what you needed at some point. I mean, we raised my ex and I. We raised Kennedy, right? And Kennedy didn't eat a whole lot. She just didn't eat much. She just didn't want much, But the doctor said, "Quit making her eat what she don't want to eat. She'll get what she needs." And isn't it interesting in life how sometimes when you don't seem to be getting what you think you're getting, you're actually getting exactly what you need, and because you end up making it where you need to make it to. It always works out that way. I don't know why it always does, but it does. Kevin, so you said your dad was in your life until he passed when you were 17, right? So you had your mom and your dad up until that time?
Yes, I had my mother and my father in the house.
Okay.
It wasn't always a pretty moment, but the thing is that was the thing that I tell folks why now I have made it a mission and a plan and a daily request to fight against any aspect of generational curses.
Okay.
But on the main part about it, yes, my father was there in the house with me. And I have 2 older brothers that have nothing to do with me. They were from his prior marriage. So I'm the only child between my mother and my father.
Okay.
So in a lot of ways in life, I was exposed to a whole lot of things. But my dad did the best that he could. He was a working man. He died on the job.
Okay.
But he always employed the principle within me. I mean, if I made a B, that was a piss poor grade to him.
Okay.
But when I found his report cards, he had C's and D's and, B's here and there. And his A's was in PE, because he was an athlete, in that sense, a big time football player. But I mean, overall, when I look at that, you know, the same thing I employed into my son, the same thing I'm, you know, after, you know, meeting my daughter later in life, and then to now, even with my 3-year-old, I have, you know, along with other children that I've been a father to that hang out to be biological. I'm pretty sure Reginald can attest to this. When you're dealing with children as in sports and athletics, and just, I mean, James, I've even had talks with your son and your daughters, you know, at that point. So, I mean, you know, in that same process of being transparent, your goal is to employ the principle, don't be like me, be better than me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and the thing is that, you know, with Corey here, and the point about that, you know, after losing my father, then the thing is that I had to get out of my head that my dad died at 52. I'm at 48. So I'm looking at what's going to happen when I'm 52.
Okay.
You know, so now with a
Wow.
3-year-old, I'm sitting there thinking,
Jesus.
what is it? Even down to the point that, you know, I sat down with my financial guy the other day. He was like, dude, what you trying to do? Send this kid to Harvard and Yale, or what? I mean, what are you doing?
You doggone right.
I was like, yeah. I said, you know, the thing is, and you know, James, you and I have had that conversation, you know, dealing with that point. So you get your insurance policies together, you get your will or your trust, and you get all that other stuff together, because the thing is that when you're a father that has the mindset of establishing a legacy,
Talk, sir.
that's a job.
Yes, sir. Talk, sir. Talk, sir. Talk. Talk. Talk.
And when you take that job seriously,
Mm.
it's not a daily task.
Mm.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
It's a daily calling on your life.
Jesus.
I hear you.
Mm. Here, y'all need to listen. Did you hear what he just said? He's 48 years old. He has a 31-year-old, a soon to be 28-year-old, and now a 3-year-old. Now, the 28-year-old is not his, but it's his.
Right.
Okay, it's not. It's he. Let me say it like that. It's his, but it's not his. I think that sounds a lot better right there. Okay, he's committed. I'm wiping tears from my eyes too. Okay, 31-year-old. We ain't even got into her story yet. We're gonna get this first hour. I'm trying to set a foundation, so we're gonna go farther from there. But he said this 3-year-old, it's an everyday job to put that boy in a position where his future is secure. And listen what he said. It's an everyday job. And if you watch Dr. Kevin works, Dr. Kevin, when he does adjustments, he literally lifts people up on his back. I'm talking about heavy people. He puts them up on his back and to do a part of an adjustment that is actually affecting his own physical strength. Okay? So he takes this job seriously, what he does. He takes this alternative medicine, this natural healing, this whole thing. Listen, if y'all don't know it, and me and him, we're gonna do a show on this just on chiropractic before this quarter is out. I hadn't told him yet, but we're gonna do it though. Because I want you to understand how if the spine is healthy, the whole body is healthy, and everything, just the whole system is just together. And he can explain that type of stuff. But when he does these types of things, he does it not just for himself, but he does it for that baby. And if you watch him with his baby, so that's the next thing I want to segue into, Reggie. Watching how your grandparents and more specifically your grandfather dealt with you, how has that shaped your parental skills and how you interact with your sons and or your daughters? How has that shaped your worldview?
Well, basically, man, just always instilling that work ethic. Don't, mind your business, work hard, and just let things be, how they gonna be. So just always just growing up, everybody always wanted to tell you to do this way, do this way. I mean, and you guys on here with kids know each child is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know with me having Zay when I was younger, and me being in athletics, only thing Zay pretty much, Xavier, and I call him Zay, saw was athletic. So I mean, at that point I knew, eventually, he was going to be athletic, because that's what he saw. But, you know, as I got older and just growing up, man, like I said, I didn't have much. We didn't have anything. So I learned early, you know, it wasn't always the monetary things that everybody had, because we grew up with nothing in the country. So I never was threw off by seeing people with this or with that, because one thing my grandparents did, we always had food. We always had clothes on our back. And, you know, they never complained. You know, so, you know, I learned that too, you know, as I got older. You know, I may not agree with a lot of things, or I may be upset, but I never complained publicly. Just put it that way, publicly, where people can see it. You know, I always try to keep, always try to keep the same face, try to keep even keel. So with my kids, I always try to say, look, you know, things gonna happen. There's no need to sit back and cry about it or sit there and fuss about it, because at the end of the day, it's still gonna be there. You know, you're going to have your time where you're going to sit back and think about it, but after it's over, move on, see how you can fix it. You know, let's work past it and just keep it moving. So that's one thing my grandparents taught me, man. Never give up, just keep going, because it could be worse. I mean, a lot of times you look at a lot of situations and you're like, man, it could be a lot worse. One thing with me working with kids, and been working with kids since I was, about 15, 16 years old. And I always knew that was going to be my calling, to work with kids. So working in high schools and seeing kids grow up. And like Kevin said before, these kids grow up with so much going on in their household, and they bring it to the school setting. You know, as a teacher, you know, you never know what's going on outside of the school. But if you build a relationship with the kids, they come in, they tell you things, you're like, wow, you know, I understand why you came in here angry. You know, you waking up, you don't have any food. You go home, you don't have any food. You know, a lot of kids come to school just to eat.
Wow.
So, you know, that's the reality of it. But, you know, they don't want to show that, because nowadays, you know, with the social media and everything, they want to portray a certain image, but it's not actually, you're not living that image. So that's one thing that I learned from my grandparents, man. Just be true to yourself, work hard, let things fall where they may, and just keep pushing. No matter what happens, just keep pushing forward.
Corey, before we go to your question, let's make a quick left turn right quick. Let's cut across the field, as y'all old preachers call it. Let's cut across the field. As Black parents, knowing our history, our DNA, as in our DNA culturally, we come from what you call a being culture, or we come from a communal type culture. When you go back, as the farther you go east, Corey, and I'm sure you can attest to this, the farther you go east, the more communal the culture is, right? So Black people, typically we had more of a communal culture because we did. That's why we have the family reunions we have. That's why, you know, it was back in the day, Big Mama and them would get involved in the family, and, you know, and I mean, you know, we had Sunday dinners and all those types of things. So with that communal thing, I think the Black father has a different tag on him than a lot of other cultures do. And I'm saying that to say this. For instance, Reggie, with you being number one, a father, number two, an athletic director, you have to assume the role for a lot of children that aren't even your own. You know, if you go in the hood, like my dad, I'm gonna give you an example. My dad, it wasn't just my daddy, Kevin. My daddy was everybody's daddy that knew him that didn't have a father, if that made sense. You understand what I'm saying? And it seems as though naturally good Black fathers seem to just assume or take on that role, right? When I have kids around me, Reggie, you don't call me James. I'm Mr. Kirkland. I don't care if you're 24, 25 years old now. I'm still Mr. Kirkland to you. Me and my son's friends will never be my friends. I don't really understand what I mean. I might follow you on Instagram or something like that because you're a professional athlete or something like that. But we ain't cool like that, right? So we assume these, and this is the way it should be. Reggie, and we're going to move on, but I want you to answer a little bit more for me, Reggie. Do you find yourself fathering a lot of the fatherless?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Like I said, when I got involved with education, man, that's when I was heavy into coaching, you know, until Zay got of age, and then I had to spend more time with him. But, man, just bringing kids home every weekend, kids want to come stay over every weekend, man, just, you know, just getting them a different outlook on, you know, how things should be. You know, like I said, you know, when they come in the house, oh, you got food? Oh, yeah, go in there, get what you want. Go in the refrigerator, yeah, get what you want. Have a good time. Sit down. Oh, we got a bed to sleep in. You know, we take a lot of that stuff for granted. But like I said, a lot of times you never know what goes on with some of our youth today. So, and definitely, man, just growing up, man, every day. Like I said, I still get calls to this day from former players, former students. Coach, thank you, man. Just appreciate you helping me and telling me this, telling me that. Because one thing you guys can attest, like Kevin said before, young and dumb, you're gonna make mistakes.
Oh yeah,
It's nowhere around it.
no doubt.
You know, working with high school kids, they swear they did things that we didn't do. The only difference is now everybody can see what you guys do.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, like I said, you know, I know you're gonna do it. I know you. Even with my raising my son with Zay, I said a lot of things that I'm trying to shield you from. I know you're gonna do. I mean, because you know, you think you're grown, you think you know more than I know. You know, like I said. So, but as they got older and working with the kids in high school, man, definitely every day is you're a father every day. Every day you walk into this building, you are impacting a student some kind of way.
That's good.
So that's every day.
That's good. And Kevin, I watch you. I'm gonna tell you when you impressed me, and we were always cool. Don't get me wrong. Now you impressed me the day that Trey had snapped his little hamstring, and there was a scout coming the next day. Reggie, he had him. Look, he snapped his hamstring. He had Trey running the next day. He put some kind of rock salt on him, put some tape on him, had that joker running the next day. That was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But what impressed me the most was, Corey, my daughter Kennedy had a torn labrum, wasn't it, Doc?
Yes.
It was a torn labrum, and they wanted to do surgery.
Mm.
And he said, no, don't do surgery. He said, that baby's strong enough. He said, and with therapy, if we work together, we can make this thing work. So when I brought Kennedy to him, he said he had her do some exercise, and he handed her $20. He said, hold this. And then she was able, and I watched him take on the role. He wasn't her father, but you could tell he was a father, the way he interacted with him. You remember that, man?
Yes, I do.
Because what was it? Some kind of muscle that that wouldn't react. But
right.
you told her to hold on. What you tell it, because you're a doctor. I don't know that part of the story.
Yeah, I had to get her to understand that she had to eliminate the idea of pain, and then to eliminate the idea of defeat because of the injury in her mind. But to understand that as long as she had that going on and had that moment of doubt in her mind, her body couldn't heal.
Wow.
She could defeat that.
Wow.
Because innately God has already instilled and innately put it in us the ability to heal. But we have to speak it. We have to see it. We have to consider and think about it and bring it forth and manifest it. Surgeons are surgeons. When there's surgery that needs to be done, then yes, let's get it on. Let's do what we have to do. But when there are things that then she was already strong and as strong-willed as she is, but as internal as she is,
very internal,
I had to tell her, you got to bring that out. You got to take that power that you have that's already within you and bring it forth and allow your body to do what it's supposed to do so you can heal. Being quiet about it or being tucked away about it and just saying that it hurts is not a way that's going to bring forth a healing.
Wow.
You have to declare it's already done. We're going to play. We're going to make it happen. And I felt firm in that because James, you and I both, and as well as Corey, as well as Reginald knows, and the point, as long as we speak it, the power of life and death is in the tongue. So
that's it.
We got to bring it forth. And that's what we do with each other's children. That's what we do with other folks' children, especially, Reginald, and then to Corey, and, as far as the idea of just the congregation or the schoolhouse. And then too, and James, you know how it is, whether the dealership or whether it's the street or whether it's my office. The thing is, there's always a sanctuary present for us to come together and talk about what it is that needs to be done. And these children need to hear it.
Absolutely. Declarations, man. Those I'm telling you something. And sisters, I'm not discounting you at all, because we all play an intricate part. But it's certain things, certain affirmations and certain things that men can speak into children that just make a difference. It's just, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't let everybody talk to my daughter. I don't. No. But when he started talking to her, I sat down and I moved, because I knew she wasn't hearing her father, but she was hearing a father. I never will forget, man. I was I was running track my senior year of high school, man. I was racing for last place in this 60 this 400 yard dash. I was racing for last place, man. I'm talking about I started out, I was number one for about 300 yards, Reggie, but 300 meters, man. But that last 100 meters, that monkey jumped on my back, man. And I was racing for last place. I mean, it was me and one dude was racing for 7th and 8th. And all of a sudden I heard my daddy say, go, 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 go. And I got a burst of energy, man, because I heard my daddy's voice. I heard my daddy's voice, and that gave me a little bit more fortitude to keep moving. And what I'm hearing from you, Corey, is that when Callie and Chloe, because they discovered that your presence was a presence. When you showed up, when they didn't expect you to show up, what it did was it instilled even more faith in y'all's relationship, right? And so even there are times that mama is great, stepdad is great, all that kind of stuff, but there are times when they still need to hear your voice. Talk about that for a moment, if you will.
Yeah, that's that. Nothing can take the place of the father. That the child needs to be fathered, and I want to give a shout out to my daughter's stepfather. His name is Keith Kelly. I plan to throw him a party one day for being an awesome stepfather to my daughter.
Wow.
And because that wasn't my story, man. And I'm, my grandparents raised me. My grandfather fathered me. But then my mom, she was already dating this man who would eventually be my stepfather. And long story short, that didn't go well at all.
Okay.
And so it was 7 years of hell. My mom finally divorced this guy after 30 years of marriage, but I divorced him after 7 years. And so I saw some very ugly things in those 7 years. And so I know how bad a stepfather situation can be. But Keith Kelly, who married my ex-wife, has been an awesome stepfather to my daughters. And I hope for the opportunity to literally throw him a party with a live band, barbecue and everything.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. He was an awesome stepfather. But again, no matter how awesome he is to them, he was to them when, in their younger years, he's still not their father. I'm their father.
Okay.
And it's not a competition thing. It just is what it is. And and it's a blessing for it to feel like a competition, because stepfathers can be unconcerned, can be aloof, that's that dude's kids, that's that man's kid. I ain't got nothing, they got a dad and all that kind of stuff. They can be disconnected and a whole bunch of other stuff. So nothing takes the place of and while I'm saying this, let me say this before I get in trouble, James. I'm gonna try to say this as brief as I can, but a few years ago, I met a guy on Facebook. His name is Gray Manuka, and he's from Malawi, Africa. And Gray had reached out to me, and we started, technology was advancing, and eventually we had conversations via our messenger, free conversations. Get a load of that, from America to Africa. We talking. And he wanted me to come to preach. He sent me pictures of of 150 pastors under pavilion that he wanted me to come to preach to. He had been following me on Facebook and other places and stuff, and I was having passport issues and could not go to him when he initially invited. And then for a time we lost contact, and then I wasn't seeing him at all on Facebook or Instagram, and so I started reaching out. And he was there was one night we were talking. He would have to go stand outside, try to find a decent spot so that we could hear each other. So, and different time zone and all that. So he'd be standing out in the dark trying to find a spot in the yard to and he eventually found one spot to be in that he could talk to me clearly. So we had a lot of challenges with that. And there was one night where his son was talking their native language, which is Chichewa.
Okay.
And, and he would stop talking to me because he could speak English pretty fluently. And he would talk to his son. And finally he said, with his dialect, Pastor Morris, my son is giving me the flux. He wants to talk to you so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you mind talking to him? I said, let's talk. He gave him the phone and I'm talking English. He's talking Chichewa. And from that day on, he started calling me his dad in America.
Wow.
And so whenever Gray and I talked, he would eventually get on the phone. He started learning a few English words, something like that. And so when Gray, I didn't hear from Gray, I began to be concerned. So I called, the numbers that I had to no avail.
Mm.
And this lady named Rhoda had reached out to me on Facebook from Africa after he did. And so I talked to him and said, do you know this lady, Rhoda? And he said, yeah, I do. So when I didn't hear from him, I remembered to contact her. Long story short, when I reached out to her, she told me that Gray had died 2 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
And I asked about his wife, and his wife had died 2 months after he died.
Jesus.
He was preaching on a mountain in Malawi called Mulanje, and was driving back down from the mountain. The car flipped, and he was the only one in the car that died.
Jeez.
And so then his wife died 2 months later of malaria. So that meant that this boy that had been calling me daddy didn't have a mother or father.
Wow.
And so Rhoda put me in touch with Florence. That's the girl's name, Florence. Her mother was living in South Africa. So I was able to get in touch with her and talk to Florence. And from there, they hadn't talked to, the brother and the sister hadn't talked to one another in about a little over 2 years. They didn't know where each other were. And so the Lord used all of that to bring them back together. So long story short, I have adopted 2 other kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I am, the Lord has given me the wherewithal to pay for their education. We just relocated the mother and her daughter back to Malawi.
Okay.
And they are together now. Now the daughter and the son are going to the same school.
Okay.
A boarding school. Education over there isn't free. So the liberties and the luxuries that we have, we often take for granted, but there's no free public schools over there. You either have the money or you don't. And so I have 2 other kids. I got a picture on my phone from years ago when I first met Gray. He took a picture of him and said, "This is James Morris."
That's amazing.
And,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so.
amazing.
Yeah.
And that whole, but you know what, that whole father thing, man, it's not like a suit you can take off though. You know what I'm saying? If you're a father, you just a father, man. And sometimes those fatherly instincts just click in. You know what I'm saying? It's like being a man.
Yeah.
When you're really a man, certain things just automatically click in. Let's segue right quick. We're gonna make another quick left turn because you raise daughters, And like I said, I've seen Corey, I've seen the affinity that you have for Callie and Chloe, and likewise with you, Reggie. I've seen the affinity that you have for your daughters, the 17-year-old, that little one, the little one that's the little cheerleader. That she had,
Yes.
yes, Lord, she had you wrapped around her finger since she was a little girl at the baseball field. But I want Kevin, and y'all hear me. If y'all got some tissue, you might want to go get it right quick because I want you to hear Kevin's story because Kevin mentioned to us a few minutes ago that he had a 31-year-old daughter. And do me a favor, everybody that's in the chat right now, like this post, share it, love it, whatever you want to do. But I also want you to share it. We got 21 people that are listening in the numbers. I want to see if we can double that right quick because I really want everybody to hear this next story by Kevin. We might not get into any of my agenda tonight, and we don't. Like I said, I'm cool because I'm loving the transparency that I'm hearing right now. Now, Kevin, you told us about your 28, soon to be 28-year-old. What's his name? Jakari. You've told us about Caleb a little bit. You know, he's almost moved us all to tears a moment ago. But tell us about the 31-year-old, Corey and Reggie. He has not known his 31-year-old all 31 years. Okay. Tell him how old was she when you met her, when you found out you had a daughter?
When I found out, her name is Benita. When I found out about her, she was 20. And when I met her, she was just a month and a half shy of turning 21.
Wow.
She reached out to my mother, which my mother, I guess, just in awe for a while, was just like, I don't know. Just trying to figure out the whole situation. But my mom one day, when she was here, came to me and brought me a letter that Benita had written her, because Benita actually was born January 9th of 1991, which was actually 9 months before my father passed away. And crazy enough that within walking distance was my daughter, of my household and of my family.
Wow.
And like we were talking about earlier, when you're young and you're dumb, you do the things that you do. But needless to say, her mother was a little older. So here I am, a young man chasing behind and trying to learn about life, you know, in that same sense. So anyway, I remember as a kid at 17 when Benita was born, but the whole idea of the situation was that there was another gentleman that ended up seeing her mom. And I, as a young man, when an older man is around, you learn to retreat and back up. But in that process, the deed had been done, but I didn't know nor think any aspect about her being mine. So it was such a hurtful thing when my mother brought me that letter, and I looked and I read that letter about this girl asking my mama a question. She found out that the man that she thought was her daddy wasn't her daddy. And her mama never said anything otherwise. And then on the other side of it, when I looked at the picture of this young girl's face, all I could do was see mine.
Jesus.
I didn't need a DNA test, but I took one just for the sake thereof. Once I found out, because I reached out to her, it took me a minute just to get it in my mind. And then deep down inside, there was I didn't know whether there to be a part of shame. I didn't know what to feel. Because here it is that all these years, I'm sitting there thinking there's a missing part of my life, but I didn't know. I couldn't put my finger on any part of it. But here it is. I get a letter that my mother brings to me, and I look in this picture and I see my face. And basically, it is just nothing but the female version of me. And I'm sitting there looking at her, and I began to weep. But I reached out to her and I had a conversation with her, and to find out the things that she had been through in her life. She had been molested.
Jesus.
She had been to the point of just her mother became an alcoholic. she had, in that process. And I just tell folks, and I'm being transparent, but she'd even gotten so point that at 12, 13 years old, she even tried to, in the country, people know what gas to do, but a lot of kids don't know what kerosene to do. So kerosene heaters are there available. Her mother had this my daughter was so hurt, but still so smart at the same time. I want to put kerosene around her mother's bed, and her mother smoked cigarettes. So she went to try to start a fire.
Wow.
So she ended up in foster care. Because here it is, her mother was and became an alcoholic. God rest her soul, because she's passed now, and went through that. But the thing is that God works in crazy ways. But my daughter ended up in foster care for all those years. And like I said, just in that point, the man that she thought was a dad wasn't a dad. So she went to asking her mama questions, and here it is, me, that pops up finally. And I met her when she was 20 years old. She was in North Carolina. She had never been on an airplane. I mean, Greensboro ain't too far from here. But I put her on an airplane for the first time in her life and flew her here. And I remember to this day, just knowing what her face looked like from the picture and seeing her come up the escalator. And I just stood there. But I didn't walk up to her and approach her, because I really didn't know, because I had to pray really hard on how should I approach my daughter. A man that's her father that she's never known, and she's never known what a real father was like, because this other man would pop in and out. He was married to another woman, so pop in and pop out, maybe take a hunting one day, maybe take a fishing another day, but still never a day-to-day approach upon that. And gentlemen, you know in this point, I mean, and even the women that's on this on the chat now, the point, the first true love affair a woman ever has, and it's not no freaky deaky stuff, but the first true love affair a woman has is with her father.
Supposed to be. Yep.
So here it is, 20 years to the negative, not to the positive for my daughter. So I'm having to think about, what do I say? What do I do? And then on the back end of it, naturally as a dad or a father, you want to try to be the best that you can be. So here it is, I'm flying her here. Here it is on the other side of it. So as she's walking the baggage claim, I'm walking a little bit far from her, but just so I can keep my eyes on her. And when she went to go to the baggage claim, and I realized she didn't know which way to go or how to do it, I walked up on her, I stood up and I called her name. And when she turned around, I looked her in her face. And again, all I could do was see myself. So at her being 20, getting ready to turn 21, and here it is, us first meeting for the very first time, I could just hug her and I could just tell her that I love her. We had talked on the phone, but there's nothing like that face to face and eye to eye. And the next part about it, over these years, it has not been easy, because she's grown. Yeah. You can't raise a grown person.
Yeah.
And I stepped in there, and you get even in points of arguments, and I mean, in times I would tell her, the thing is, if I could go back and change the hands of time, I would. I wouldn't have let you get hurt. I wouldn't have let you go through these times. I would have been always there to protect you, to provide for you. But then too, no matter what the struggle, because I did it for Jakari, I could have done it for her. But that's the tough part about it. And then two, to see her go through things in life, because naturally, I mean, those of us here with older kids, they know more than we do if you hear them tell it.
Oh, yeah.
And you sit there and you try to shield them from things in the world, but they still know more than you do. So I've watched my daughter go through times in life, and still watching her go through hardships and times in life, and it's not easy at all. It's not easy at all, because the thing is that we can see greatness written on our children. But if you haven't had the time or been able to put the energy into it, you start, and I'm just speaking honestly, I went through many years thinking, how did I fail?
Wow. I was going to ask that question.
How did I fail? And the thing is, then it's like you overcompensate to try to make up the difference, but there is no point of where you can make up the difference. It's a whole lot of prayer and a whole lot of conversation, but then too, it's a whole lot of late nights that I had waking up, sitting up and on the side of my bed praying. And then too, when she's out in the streets and she's out in a bad relationship, or it was times of just being transparent in that point, trying to figure out her sexuality, or things of that nature, or even in the point where, it's crazy enough, and I'll just be even more open and transparent. When my wife was pregnant with our son Caleb, within a year thereafter, my son Jakari was pregnant now with my grandbaby. And my daughter was pregnant at the same time that he was pregnant. Wow. So all of us at the same time, pretty much. So within a year's time. And I crack the jokes about it all the time about, at least I beat y'all to the punch. But the other side of it is that Jakari had my grandbaby, had my granddaughter, but my daughter lost her daughter.
Okay.
And in that same time of losing her daughter, and she was, further along in her in her pregnancy, earlier that year, she lost her mother, her biological mother. Jeez. And I fought for years for her. I said, don't ever call your mother by her first name. That's not my mama. No, that's your mama. That's your mother. The same way I'm your father. There's been difference in times in that point, but I drilled it into that point. It may have been hardships. There may have been storms and trials and tribulations, but still, she's the one that brought you into the world. And now she's on her down and out time. So it is your job as the daughter to be at her bedside. It is your job to be there to take care of her. To the point where, and crazy enough, my daughter was a certified nursing assistant. I said, if you can take care of others, you can take care of her.
Absolutely.
So I tell my kids, and the older kids, even the ones that I raised, as far as being a mentor or whatever else, I said, I don't want y'all to ever feel like you owe me anything. I just want on that day and time when I reach a moment when I can't do much for myself, that you bring me a glass of water.
Wow. That's that's deep. I promise you. But you had me. I wasn't expecting. I can't get out of my chair to go get no tissue to wipe these tears from my eyes. Or you need to stop doing me like that, Kevin, for real. Seriously. But I get it. And what that really shows, is that with Corey's situation, with Kevin supplementing. I thank God my wife and I stayed together for the majority of our children's lives. As far as while they were in school and all those types of things, we didn't have that much of a gap to fill. But it shows, Reggie, the importance of both parents being in the children's lives. There was a study done by Rodney and Moupier that showed that children that have a relationship with their father, number one, they excel better in academics. Typically, when children have a good relationship with their father, they excel better in academics. And number two, they have a smaller chance of high-risk behaviors such as drug use, and or being jailed. That's usually the case, and studies have shown that that's what takes place. So what that shows is that Black men are very necessary in the house. Now, y'all started a conversation in the chat a minute ago. Shantae asked a question about what if the mother, and Corey, that was your situation to an extent, because your ex-wife did remarry. But Shantae said that what happens sometimes is that the woman will try to sabotage a relationship with the biological father and push that child on the stepdad. Have y'all seen that? Corey, have you seen that to be true?
I have seen it.
Okay.
I have seen it.
And how did the children respond to that, or did it create a rift for the father trying to have that relationship with the child?
Yeah, over my years of pastoring, I've seen a whole lot of stuff.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about several situations that come to mind now. But I think that when you're dealing with difficulties of life, it's important that you just come down to some simplistic basics, and then before you start, dealing with all of the particulars, deal with the general thing, and generally speaking, when divorce happens, two people are hurt.
Mm.
Two adults are hurt. One may handle the hurt better than the other. And hurt people are the only ones that want to hurt other people.
Immediately.
And so if the male or the female, whichever party is hurting, that is the party that's going to try to inflict injury onto the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it's the children who are the pawns. It's the children who are caught up in the middle of that conflict. And so the children become the playing ground or the battlefield of these adult wars. And it's just unfortunate. So when I have had to counsel through those things, I have had to, and a lot of them, when it came down to counseling, they were so hurt that they really weren't hearing.
Okay.
They really just wanted a mediator or a referee to push that point. And I had success with getting through to several of them, to try to get them to the place where they could see beyond the hurt, and so that they could be what they needed to be for those children.
And that's the key word, for the children. Let me play this right quick. Let me see if I can get it to come up real fast. Hold on one second. I want to play this.
We continue to rethink what is right and wrong when it comes to parenting. Sekou challenges us every day. We allow him to climb on couches and draw on his clothes and his shoes, let him run around the store. Well, I do anyway. And I get the death stares from other mamas who look at me and who think that children should be quiet and well-behaved in public. I also get those questions that are really judgments, but I don't pay them any mind. Because at the end of the day, our job is to guide Sekou on this journey of life, not to control him. We're here to help him figure out his place in the world, to uncover his greatest gifts, to discover why he was born.
That's it. That's it. Our purpose is not to control these kids, but it's to guide them, to help them to discover who they are.
Right.
If my children tell me where they want to go, I promise you, I will set the GPS and help them get there, because that's my job. Let me tell you something. I wrote Trey's litany out the other day. My son is 23. At the age of 23, he has an associate's degree. He has a bachelor's degree. He has a master's degree. He trades Forex and does very well financially with that. And he also just got his real estate license at 23. Man, you tell me what, and guess what, Reggie? You know as well as I know. What's that? That was plan B, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We thought Trey would be playing professional baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
That was plan B. So if that's plan B, I'll take it. I'll take it. 23 years old with a master's degree. You know why? Because it's my job as a parent, as a father, to set the GPS and to help. I didn't want to raise a robot. Right. Trey would call me, and first thing Trey would say to me sometimes when he had something really on his mind, Trey would say, "Dad, you know what? I was thinking." And when he said I was thinking, I stopped listening. I'd be on my phone doing something else. And as soon as I heard him be quiet, I said, "All right, then I'll holler at you and hang up the phone." He'll call me back. "Dad, what do you think?" "Don't matter what I'm thinking. You thought. Let's see what happens with your thought." And I trusted him enough to make those decisions. Now, the girls, I might give them a little more coaching. You know what I'm saying? I might lead them a little bit in a little bit different way because I prepared them a little different. They're wired a little bit different. Not that one is better than the other, because that baby of mine, like I just told you, she graduated in December. They had a job since she was 14 or 15 years old, decided she doesn't want to go to college right now. She wants to go to esthetician school. She's going to be just fine. I'm not worried about her because I didn't raise them to be robots. I raised them to think. But my ex has not tried to keep me out of their lives. I could come and go as much as I please. I've spent nights over there when she's out of town. We co-parent. That's one thing that we make sure that we want to do. And for these last 30 minutes, that's what I want to talk about. I want to really talk about co-parenting. Now, co-parenting for Black men can be attached to social barriers and misunderstandings about the role that they serve in parenting if they are no longer in the home. Sometimes, and sisters, this is what men say, this is what men feel. Sometimes men feel that the struggles with the other parent can be too difficult to deal with, and those negative interactions can lead to high levels of stress and issues such as chronic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, or instances of depression. Because sometimes we're upset that we're no longer romantically involved, so we use the child as a pawn. That's not my testimony, thank God. I was in my child's life and I was able to be there. But what I want to say is this right here. As we look at this whole issue of co-parenting, because we want to co-parent, we don't want chaos. Can we agree with that? We want to make sure we co-parent, but we want to co-parent without having the chaos. So there are about 5 things that we should do if we want to avoid the chaos. The first thing that we should do, and gentlemen, I want y'all to weigh in on these, and not in any specific order, but feel free to interject when I put these out there. Okay. The first one is when you're co-parenting, view your relationship with the other parent as a partnership. And the partnership is we're partnering to do what? In raising this child. Now, I want you to notice something about that word partnership. The word partnership comes from the root word what? Partner, right? But what other word is in that word partner? The word parent. You see it? There's partner, but when you look in that word, you see the word parent. But the interesting thing about the word parent is the word parent can be a noun and a verb. It's not only who we are, but it's also what we do. Do y'all agree with that?
Absolutely.
As we partner with whoever our significant other was at that time, whoever we laid down with, practiced the process of procreation, created a child, that now, even though we're not together anymore, that now is our partner. Reggie, what do you think about that? As far as the mother of your children, how have you managed to maintain a partnership with her or them, however that works?
When I had my first child, I met Tanika. She's Xavier, Destiny, and Jalen's mom. So we met in college.
Okay.
So when Zay was born, he was our first child. He was born when I was a junior in college playing football. And, she was a cheerleader. So, had our child and whatnot. Of course, we tried to work it out, but being in college, things moving 100 miles per hour, for guys being in college. I mean, young, you got women everywhere. So, you doing things. But, so being a parent, we had to learn how to be a parent. And then I think one of the biggest mistakes we probably had made, we was trying to be a parent, but we really didn't know how to be a parent. Like I said, we had learned and watched some things, but when you first have a child, no one tells you about the late nights. You don't get all that free time. You gotta, when something got to be done, it's got to be done. So, being in college and trying to be in a relationship at that point in time, we did the best we could. But as we got older and when I left and graduated and we moved to Atlanta, same thing, we were still working. We was doing things for the child. So it was more so we wasn't working on our relationship. We was more working on making sure we had a strong foundation for, for the kids or whatnot.
Okay.
So I think as we got a little older, and then we realized that we can be good parents and don't have to be together. So that was one of the things we had to come to grips with at first. We can still be great parents even though we're not together. So we was cordial. We're always cordial now. We can talk about anything and, like best of friends and whatnot. So that was one thing we had to learn. We had to separate, the jealousies part, because, most men, even with women, you're going to get jealous when you see them with somebody else or vice versa, or they see you with somebody else. So once we kind of got past that part and we understood that this is for the children, and as long as the children are getting, and they see that we love them and whatnot, that's how we started to grow as parents and start to learn how to co-parent. Of course, you're going to have bumps in the road because we're going to disagree. We're not going to agree on everything. What you may think is okay, I may not think is okay, but we was able to come to a common point and understand, like, these are our kids, let's do what's best. So I think that was one of the biggest hurdles, when I was younger, just learning how to co-parent and, just moving past some of the barriers, that the jealousy part, because, people can say what they want. That's going to creep in there. At some point in time, it's going to creep in there. Whether your job is better than theirs or they see you live in a certain way. And, so that's going to creep in there. So, but once we got past that part, we was able to, co-parent it. We did. That meant I was on the road a lot, traveling back and forth, because she's from South Carolina. I'm from Georgia. So on the road every weekend, going back and forth. I mean, every weekend, like, James, we had games. I mean, the game on a Sunday, we finished at 10 o'clock and I'm driving back to South Carolina to take my daughter back or whatnot. So, just learning how to co-parent. It just meant a lot of sacrifices. So, one thing about being a parent, you're going to make sacrifices. And if you want to be a part of your kid's life, that's going to come with the territory. So we learn how to make those sacrifices, and it worked well. And then, I was fortunate enough when I came to Atlanta, and Angel, I met Angel. And then Angel kind of stepped in, and took, the kids in as her own. So that was a big plus too. Just having somebody to come in. They took, she took the kids on. Tanika and Angel was, wasn't friends, but they understood how to. It's about the kids.
Yeah.
So that played a huge part in that as well. So
you raised your children from the beginning. You've always had custody of them.
Zay has been with me since he was born.
Okay.
So when Zay was born in college, of course I was still in school. So the first place he went was, of course, to my grandparents.
Okay.
I was in college, so I said, Mom, I got to send Zay down there for, at least let me get out of school, let me graduate. She was still at school and well, so we sent her to Augusta. That's where he was raised in the country as well. So that's and then once I graduated and came to Atlanta, and he's been with me ever since. So,
man, I've always respected you, but I just got a whole nother level of respect for you after that one. That's cool. Hey, there are a couple of comments. Corey, I'm gonna give you the next one because I think Reggie pretty much tackled that one real good. Chris said we have to raise our kids by giving them the tools to succeed in life. Now, Chris is a Master Chief Sergeant, retired Master Chief in the Navy. So he's done his career. He's done his career thing with the military, decorated all that stuff. But he's retired now. So he was raised by his parents, but he also had the discipline of the military. So, but this is his take. He said we have to raise our kids by giving them the tools to succeed in life. It's not our jobs to dictate to them what school to go to, what degree to get, or what job to apply for. We have to allow them to be themselves. So when they fail, but can really learn from those failures in order to succeed. When they succeed, it's supposed to be because of them, not us. That's good. We as parents should not only guide them along the way, but it needs to be their choice, which in turn will produce confidence in them. I like that. That's really good. Corey Myers, I agree with you, my friend. Corey said there are some fathers in the home that have not fostered a relationship with their children. They are there perhaps as a role model, provider. They set examples, but don't engage. Relationships are important. Partnerships are important. I agree with that too, Corey. There are some fathers that really don't know how to be fathers, and some of them weren't fathered. And honestly, there are a lot of emotional traumas that we as men need to heal from, to be honest, to even become better parents. I'm be honest. I told my ex-wife last week, a lot of stuff our children got, they got by default. It wasn't like that we were just the best parents. You know what I'm saying? We just we had good soil. And if you got good soil, you got, some flowers are annual and some flowers are perennial. Perennials are going to come anyway, whether you plant or not. It's just going to happen. And certain things happen within the lives of my children. I know that we could take credit for, but it was just because we just gave them a good environment. And so I'll take credit for that aspect of it, but that's about it. So that's good, man. So people in the chat, make sure we are making sure we're trying to have relationships, whereas we view our relationships with the other parent as a partnership. Now, Corey, I want you to take this one. When we have these type of relationships and we're co-parenting only, we need to make sure that we establish boundaries. We need to make sure we establish boundaries. Corey, what does that mean to you, sir?
Establishing boundaries.
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about are you talking about
we're talking about like roles in the parent in the child's life? Like for instance, certain rules. We don't want the child coming to you asking for something that the mother might not agree with. Because sometimes children will play the parents against each other and all those types of things. So as a partnership, we make sure we set certain peripheries and certain boundaries, and they have to operate within the parameters of those boundaries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that what you're describing can work better if the husband or wife, or if the parent and parent are in communication with each other.
Okay.
If there is not sufficient communication between the two, whether they are co-parenting or parenting within the house together, the kids will find that division.
They will,
and they play one against the other. But and what can wipe all of that out is simply that the parents talk to one another.
Oh, no doubt.
They actually are involved. I think here's a good place for me to say something in just for a little context.
Okay.
The world is full of all kinds of philosophies of how to parent. And what's important though is what those philosophies are based on.
Okay.
And as a pastor, as a preacher, as a Christian myself, then I am held to tell us and those who are watching that be careful which philosophies you adapt or adopt when trying to raise your children.
Okay.
And in the Bible, studying the Bible, there's something called the law of first mention. And the law of first mention is when you take a particular theme or whatever it is, a concept, and you go all the way back to where it was first mentioned, and you use that for context, and you understand it within its first mention, and it sets up an understanding for how a thing ought to be done, or how a thing should be carried out, so on and so forth. And and believe it or not, it's the same way with raising children. Raising children is not a secular thing; it's a sacred thing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
See, children were supposed to be now. Of course, I got to planet Earth outside of wedlock, but it was supposed to be inside of the marriage. This is what I'm saying. Male and female. I could say a whole lot about that. Male and female is how God intended for the parent, for the household to look. Male and female. The male impregnates the female carries and births the child. The male and the female raise the child. Okay, so marriage of man and woman is biblical, and then raising a child is biblical. Earlier, James, you were after you showed us the clip where the woman said it's not up to the parent to control the child, and where you picked it up, it was dealing with one situation, but basically in two different stages. When a child is young, when a child is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, when they're young, they need to be controlled.
Yeah, definitely.
Get your behind down. You ain't gonna run all over this store and rearrange the rules, But now when you get to be a senior in high school, when you are coming into your own, it is the parent's responsibility to protect that child the best they can from failure, which means I'm gonna have to kind of control you. And if you don't want to be controlled, now this is younger in the years. You do what the Bible says. If you spare the rod, you spoil the child. This is now, there's some philosophies that ain't gonna get with that,
Absolutely.
but biblical. And so the lady was talking about, she lets her child run around and she, lets and she don't care about, she's not intimidated by the looks and all of that because she's not going to control it. Well, let me tell you what Ernestine Robertson did to me. Piglet Wiggly, I had to be 3, 4, I don't know. I was quite young, but grandmother, gave me that speech that all, parents,
don't embarrass me.
Don't get in here and cut up. Don't ask, don't touch nothing. Did all of that. And I don't think she gave to me that day because it wasn't necessary. I knew, but when we walked in, she went down the produce aisle, and in the middle of the produce aisle was this Brock candy rack. And ain't no candy like Brock candies. No. And so I'm looking up at it, I'm asking grandma for some candy. And she got the big Brock sack, but she didn't drop but like 3 pieces of candy in this big sack. And I'm thinking that ain't nothing, And so I didn't know any better. My grandmother went on off, and I stayed there stuffing my pockets. I stuffed every top pockets, front pockets, back pockets. I was loaded with candy, and I had so much candy that I was that I was leaving a trail trying to walk. Every time I would bend over, it would fall out of my pocket. I stand up and put it back in my pocket, and then fall out my, I was leaving a trail. And so my grandmother, as fate would have it, she was walking towards me as I'm walking towards her. She already through shopping, and we getting ready to leave out of Piggly Wiggly. And we met right up there at the front. And I had stolen all this candy.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't know I was stealing, but my grandmother picked me up by my right hand and she spanked me with her other hand. Yes, so I'm literally spinning around and she telling me, don't you ever do this again, See, the old school philosophy was you get tore up wherever you cut up.
Get it where you gave it. Yes, sir.
If you cut up in church, you're going to get tore up in church.
Yes, sir.
I cut up in Piggly Wiggly. I got tore up in Piggly Wiggly. She controlled my behavior. You follow what I'm saying? She didn't just let me just run crazy. Okay. And this kind of discipline is what is missing.
Yes, sir.
In our modern day households, because you got these other philosophies that are coming in to say, just let Joey do what he wants to do. Let him say what he wants. Just let him yell. And they don't have any discipline. They're not learning any, as you say, boundaries at home. And then they go over there with Reginald, and he's trying to teach them discipline at the school that the parents have not reinforced at the house, and the teachers they can't teach for having a referee because they got a lot of undisciplined children in there whose parents just let them do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
When it is biblical,
That's biblical.
to guide, to teach, to train up a child. I mean, if that child is being trained, there are some things that child cannot do.
Yeah.
If the training is training.
That's
So
right.
there's gonna be some control. You're gonna have your behind in the house by this time. You're gonna be in before the street lights come on. You ain't gonna be on. My grandmother wouldn't let me talk on the phone be past 5 minutes. She said, "All right, get off that phone because you about to, you about to start lying. You ain't got that much to talk about. Get off of that phone. Whatever you said is what you said, and it's over." So and here I am, 51 years old. And I look back on all of the training. I look back on the whippings. I look back on the whippings with belts, with switches, with fly swaps. Whatever was there.
Yes,
Backhand,
Oh, Father.
hand. I mean, all of that. Ear twisted, all that pinching, all that kind of stuff. And I'm grateful for it.
Yes, sir.
They gave me a foundation. They gave me a foundation, man. And my grandparents' latter years, they probably got tired of me thanking them for having the audacity and the grit and the inner stamina to discipline us.
Right.
I didn't grow. Listen, I didn't grow up. I was raised.
Yeah.
I was raised.
Man, this conversation is so rich. Oh, this is rich.
Ernestine Robertson raised me.
Yes, sir,
And
Doctor.
my older aunts and uncles who are, man, they all lent themselves to raising me. I didn't grow. I was raised. And so those who are listening, be careful what philosophies you buy into. You might want to search them out because they may not be founded on scripture.
Oh, trust.
And there will be principles that you hear from other philosophies that do, if you study them, they will have a biblical base. Those are okay to follow, and you will have success with them, not because the secularists said it, but because the scripture has said it.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be successful in raising your kids, in your relationship with your husband or wife, always go back to the Bible.
That's good. That's good.
And I'm not just saying it because I'm a preacher pastor. I'm saying it because this is what it is.
And you can say it because you're a preacher pastor too. A charge to keep you have. Me too.
Yeah, of course I'm saying it, but I hear you. But what I'm saying is there are those out there who try to throw off what I'm saying because I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
They turn down the volume on the pulpit and just and they say, well, he's saying that because he got to. No, I'm not saying because I have to.
No.
This is not something that I've read. This is something that I've experienced and I know to be true. Yeah.
And I want everybody to know that this conversation is super, super, super organic. Like I said, I put contingency plans in place in case we don't have anything to talk about. But we're good on this one tonight. Listen, guys. Amir said something when he talking about the establishing boundaries piece. He says when he sees the topic established boundaries in the context of co-parenting, what comes to mind is the roles of the significant others of the parents at hand. Let's say a male child is being raised. Boundaries have to be established as to whether a scenario is best dealt with by the stepdad or by the biological dad. Maybe the biological dad wants to be the only one to take his son to get a haircut. If that's their thing, that's a natural boundary a potential step parent won't cross. So that's good too. That's good too.
Yeah.
But let's go, y'all. If I need an extra 15 minutes, y'all give it to me. If you gotta go, I understand. But if y'all can give it to me, I want to get through these last little things right quick. Dr. Flight.
Yes, sir.
I know you're not necessarily you are co-parenting because you have a child, but y'all just doing it in the same home. So this is the one I want you to deal with: recognizing your role of fatherhood. Recognizing your role of fatherhood. Tell me how you establish that with your children, as far as recognizing your and with their parent as well, recognizing it's certain things that just the father is supposed to do. How do you handle that?
Well, I got a quote, a thought right here for you. It says here, a father thinks about his children day and night, even when they are not with him, and he will love them forever in a way they can never understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing when we look at fatherhood, you know, and Corey, brother, I can relate to everything that you talked about, and even with my 3-year-old now, because I am not going to be lost in the ways of the modern way. I'm going to be the one who enforces the way that the word says to train
Absolutely.
up that child in the way that you have them to go, and they'll never depart from it. To train them up in that way. Even my 3-year-old, I get tight and I get right with it when he gets out of order. And I know this is a learning process. And you know, even my soon to be in a few, matter of fact, it's crazy enough, before long, 28-year-old, in that point, still to this day, he'll come to me, Pops, I got it. I understand. And all I have to do, all it takes is a look, because he understands that the thing is, I have to be firm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
The push I get is from my daughter. But the thing is, I tell her, as long as the days come and go that I have breath to breathe and a word to escape from my lips, with the number one thing being that I love you just as our Father, meaning God will love you, then the thing is that obedience, structure, discipline has to be a primary in every aspect of it. I have to even sometimes tell my wife, you know, in that sense, I'm like, look, I don't expect you to be me, because you can't be a father. And even if we weren't in the same house together and we had to co-parent,
Mm.
you know, there's some of these situations that I've come across, and I have friends and I have patients and I have people that come across me talking about this new thing called parallel parenting. What the heck is parallel parenting? Meaning you teach that child to go and do one thing, and I teach that child to go and do another thing. So we're not in a congruent, we're not in a point where we are on an understanding. The thing is that when we put the chalk to the board, it's just like, you know, the coach here, if he puts a play up for the team to run, the receiver can't run the opposite direction of what the quarterback is telling him to run,
Absolutely.
because we can't score like that.
No, sir.
So
No,
as
sir.
a father, we have to
Come
be
on,
that.
man.
See, the thing is that we have to be on one plane and one accord. And
Absolutely.
when we're not in alignment, that's just like James. We you know how I talked to you about that spine. When it's not in alignment, the brain can't bring that thing down to tell the body what to do. So the thing is I tell folks, our mind is something that gets caught up so often and creates a dysfunction
That's a good
because the ways
conversation.
of the
Jesus.
world is so troubled right now. But within this thing that we have on top of our shoulders, the soul and the spirit is there. That gap in between is the mind.
Mm.
And there's a trap door that's there. And so many things in the world, especially now, because I had to explain something, you know, the other day, and coach, this is one of the things that's there too. You have a 2-year-old, I have a 3-year-old. Our children right now are in this alpha generation. We are in a restart, a reset.
This is
You
good.
know, here it is, and then you know, and then two, we have every one of us here have one that's come through the millennial or the generation, whatever, Z or all this other kind of stuff. We're seeing so much transition and change that the thing is, parents aren't parents anymore. They're trying to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
James,
good.
you and I always talk about that. I'm not my child's friend.
No, sir.
And I tell my son all the day, like when he walks up to me, it's hard for me to tell him no because I love him that much. But when there's a no that has to be in place, it is a firm no.
Yes.
And then when my wife turns around and might say, well, he can no. So, and if she disciplines him, then my structure as a father has to be in that point, because even on bad days and even on the days that, you know, the brothers, y'all that have been divorced or whatever else, I fight the powers that be because I don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of it, when we can't agree, where we must agree is with our child.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
We must agree. There is no point of disagreement there. There has to be a firm and solid foundation on the point of understanding that.
Mm.
And I was talking to my wife earlier, and she was like, "Why are you putting that pressure makes diamond shirt on? What's that mean?" I said, "Let's just talk about this, baby. When you look at your ring, okay, that thing that signifies our connection, that 360 degrees, that's 180 and 180. If we do 360-degree turn, we right back in the same doggone place we started from. So if it's a bad place, we right back into the bad." I said, but that precious gem that's there, how does a diamond start? As a nasty, ugly black piece of coal. But under pressure over time, under pressure, it creates a precious gem. But even when you find it, it's not pretty. I said, so we have to look at our son in that sense of he's a beautiful gem to us. He's beautiful to us. But he still has to be in a certain way in this world. He has to be cut. He has to be shaped. He has to be polished. But it's not until we create the correct and strong and powerful and positive setting for him to be in that he can be adored. So that's what we got to think about when we're fathers. The thing is that when we look at it, it's God first, then family. But we have to be the heads of our family. And even if we're not together, per se, husband and wife in that point, still we cannot lose sight of our fatherly role that the Father has ordained for us. Because all the days of our life, our hands have to be committed to the earth to work. We got to work. And that's the way that it's going to have to be. So we have to train our children in that way. And I agree with you, Corey, in that same part about it. If it was the Piggly Wiggly or the Giant or the IGA or whatever it was, man, you got laid out. Now, the way that the world has come about in that point, and it doesn't mean, folks now don't understand discipline in such a way because the thing is they do a lot of it out of anger or impulse.
That's true.
Versus looking at the way that the word has ordained for it to be.
Absolutely.
So the thing is that then you got the other enforcements that are out there that are there saying you can't touch that child.
Absolutely.
You can't do that. But then they go into the schoolhouse with coach here, and then he's wrong if he disciplines them. Because the thing is, all he wants is the best for them.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Because what vision is this: your best and brightest days are still ahead of you. So if we get stuck in the now, how can we have foresight as to what is supposed to be on that point? And all of it comes from learning from lessons. We as fathers, like Coach, you said, and even for myself, when you were young, you didn't know how to be a parent. And depending on how your parents were, determined on how you had a concept of parenting. And if grandma and granddaddy were there most of the time raising them, then the thing is, we from the country. We done seen some things. We didn't see somebody come through the front door and somebody slip out the back door.
Wow. Doc, man, let me tell you. Hey, y'all, this has been a rich conversation, man. I'm not cutting you off, Kevin. We still chatting. That's good. He said we have to understand the role of being a father. I remember when Trey was young, and he had done something. My ex jacked him up against the wall, and it just didn't look right. I ain't gonna lie, it didn't look right. So I told her, I said, let me get him when it's like that. She said, why? I said, because he's gonna need a hiding place, because I'm gonna keep my foot so far up his butt for these first 17 years. He's gonna need somebody to run to. And if he knows he can't come to either one of us, that's a problem.
Right.
And they have the best relationship now. When we got separated, Reggie, man, and it was devastating to me. But she sat us down, we all sat down, and she said, I want y'all to understand something. Because the baby was thinking it was her fault, because kids, they assume that role, especially when they're older. And she said, no, we're still Team Kirkland. We're still, even though we're not living in the same house, we're still Team Kirkland. Now, she did put in the paperwork, that she wanted to make the vital decisions. But I was with her. I lived with her for 20 years. I trust her to make good decisions regarding my kids. So I'm not worried about that. You know what I'm saying? She even told me that she wasn't going to have any other men around my children until the baby graduated. You know what I'm saying? So, but here's the next one, Reggie, because you're going to have to help me with this one, because and I'm sure I'll be all right as soon as that time comes. But as we co-parent, and we're almost done, there's still 25 people in the chat, you all.
Mm-hmm.
But as we co-parent, and you made mention of this a minute ago, Reggie, we have to realize that the romantic relationship is over.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that for me, Reggie, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on what you said too about once me and Angel left, separated, wasn't together no more, with Chance, my youngest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved on with the lady that I'm with now. And then we had a child. But my youngest daughter, she was thinking it was more so, her fault. It was her doing, why me and her mom didn't work out or whatnot. So, as time went on and she understood, like I said, at the end of the day, we still your parents, we still, here for the kids. And even with the young lady that I'm with now, Shanika, she came in and did the same thing, even though they're not biologically her kids. But like I said, at the end of the day, all of those are my kids. So if you're with me, you're with them as well. But I must commend her as well because she does a great job with them as well. So, but the romantic part, like I said, I can be one thing I learned about the romantic part, being around my kid's mom. Like I said, of course you're still going to look good, you're going to whatnot, but the desire for us to be romantically involved is not there. I mean, because it's not about that. It's about the kids. So, and then that also plays a part too with the relationship that you in, because a lot of times too, I'm not gonna say, some females may feel like you can't be in the same area as your ex because they mentally they thinking
Yes.
you still romantically involved or you see each other like that, but it's not the case. I mean, it hadn't been the case for years. So that's one thing that once they realize it's more so for the kids. It's not about me and her together or whatnot. I mean, like with Tanika, she went on and got married. Me and the guy, we not best of friends, but we good friends. Like I said, I can understand. I can say, thank you for being there for the kids, even though I'm not there physically, and you are. At the end of the day, my kids know who their dad is. And that's the most important thing to me. Like I said, as they got older, no matter what, you can always come to your dad. So that's one thing that I had to establish, and then I learned. But it took some time to learn that as well. I mean, growing up, because like I said, growing up without a father, you're thinking, I got to do whatever I need to do to make sure I'm in my kid's life. So you may make sacrifices to be with someone that you're not meant to be with, but realistically, in the long term, that's going to end up coming to forefront later on in life. Despite the good times early on, if you're not meant to be, it's gonna show its face eventually. Yeah. So that was something that I learned as well. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just blessed, man, to be able to be in my kids' life. I've been in my kids' life since they was born. Never had any issues with the mothers. Never had child support. Never had any of that. A lot of guys like, how you go? I was like, man, those are my kids. So if it's something that needs to be done, absolutely, I don't need no court to tell me what I need to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that was one of the things I have to tell you don't have to tell me they need shoes. You don't have to tell me they need to go to the doctor. That's something that that's my responsibility.
Absolutely.
Are you a black man?
Exactly.
I thought all black men didn't take care of their kids and all that kind of stuff.
But that's the narrative that they give you.
Yeah, and we don't have to believe those narratives.
But they don't show that. They don't show the positive dads out there. No. If they do show the positive dads, they're gonna try to beat that dad down and make it seem like something's wrong. Just like LeVar Ball. They always try to put him down. But the guy has raised successful kids. But
successful.
But you hear the negative, but you don't never hear, what he did, him and his wife, how he was there. You may not agree with some of his antics, but at the end of the day, he's a great dad.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a rich conversation. It's still 24 people in the chat. Corey, did you have a problem with that after your divorce? The whole realize that the romantic relationship was over and possibly having to conceptualize her being with somebody else. Did that affect your relationship with your children?
No, we didn't have that problem at all.
Okay.
But after having pastored now since 2002, I have seen situations where the divorcees do continue with sex.
Okay.
And it can create issues and all of that. And some of those relationships continue even after they had married other people.
Okay.
And, it gets cloudy with all of that, but when I counsel married couples, I say to them, if you all still can have sex, your marriage can work.
Yeah.
Right.
If you are still able to have sex, beyond the disagreements, beyond the so-called irreconcilable differences, if you still are attracted and you still can be intimate and have sex, and your marriage can work.
Teach, Pastor.
But when you are done, you all the way done.
Wow.
There's no need for no romance. There's no need for no, and then there are some who may try to initiate just to see if they still got it. Playing these games, can I make you forget that you married, and all of games.
This is good.
But yeah, but and I will say as well that uh, men, if we're gonna be honest, we really don't like to deal with other additional men when it comes to who is our woman. We don't want you know um you know I can imagine that that Keith really didn't want to have to deal with me,
Yeah.
but he had to by default that he married you know Latrice and and my kids live with them.
Yeah.
But the very first time that I met him, I told him, "You're not going to have any problems out of me at all."
That's a man,
You
man.
know,
Right.
Latrice and I, that's over. We are cool and cordial. We're adults. My concern are those two girls right over there.
That's good.
And
That's good.
and and he's been a great stepfather, man. And I never will forget this too. And I think about this, and I've had mixed emotions about what I'm about to tell you, uh, because it's partly funny, but it is also very serious because of the situation that we put our daughter in.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I came to town, sometimes I would come from out of town to take my daughters to lunch at school,
Mm-hmm.
and I go back to the airport and get on a plane. I was just trying to be there, just wanted my kids. So I'd done this one particular day with my youngest daughter, Kylie. She was going to King Elementary, and came to get her to go to lunch. And we came back, and when they were back, the bell had just rung, and the kids were lined up outside the classroom, you know, on the wall, very orderly, getting ready to be led in by the teacher. So I'm coming down the hallway with Kylie in my arms. And she was so glad that I was there. And so she started answering the inquisitive looks on people's face. She said, "This is my daddy. This is my daddy." And this little boy in her class said, "I thought you said that other man was your daddy." And man, she just shrunk. She just shrunk into my chest.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was, kids need a father that's there, man.
Yes, sir.
And I understood that she needed a father present, and the divorce and now this call to go pastor out of state took me out of the situation. And so she started calling, Keith her daddy. And I just hugged her. I said, "Kylie, I know who your daddy is." And then she kissed me on the cheek. She said, I know who your daddy is. She said, and I said, and it's okay for you to have two daddies.
Oh wow.
It's okay.
Oh wow.
And she, you could, you know, and the tension in her body just began to relax when
Wow.
she was afraid that I was going to be hurt. You know, my kids have known since day one how much I have loved them, and they didn't want to. When the love is mutual, they don't want to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? And then she knew that what was said could be hurtful to me.
Jesus.
But I was more concerned about her feeling bad about what she had said, you know, and so all of these are situations, man, that we have to, you know, to parent through and, you know, keep a an adult perspective, you know, as we navigate, you know, through and negotiate through these different real life situations that come up. Yeah. So
This is heavy. Hey, we're gonna do one more and then we out of here. I know we've been on a little bit longer than I thought, but I wanted to get it done tonight because I saw we already got people in the comments asking for part two. Kamola Kennard, I want to make sure I say her name. She said that's good. Charlene Holden said beautiful. Heart to heart. Corey Meyer said thank you for all of your transparency, for modeling and sharing the characteristics of fatherhood. All of y'all have really added some value to this conversation tonight. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been standing on the tiptoes of anticipation all day, waiting for this conversation tonight. And it's taking me on an emotional roller coaster because y'all had me crying. I've had been listening, I've been learning, and it's really been good. And we need to do more of these. We need to do more of these on more issues regarding black men because society doesn't want they don't want society to see successful black men. They want to see us doing not succeeding and doing things and underachieving and letting that be the norm, and it's not. You know, everybody don't walk around with their pants off their butts. Corey, you remember me in college. I don't even think I owned a pair of jeans in college. All I had was slacks and sweaters, and you know, we just that's how we
that's
were.
true.
Am I lying? I mean, I
That's
just
true.
that's how we were. You know, my dad raised me to put on a pair of pants, and
Yes, sir.
that's how, you know, my son is totally different, but he has his own fingerprints. I don't want him. I wasn't raising a mini me. He got my name, but he ain't me. So I trained
Right.
him, and you know what? My training leads to trusting. So I trust him. You know what I mean? And if he gets in trouble, guess what? He gonna call me or his mother. And if his mother can't
Absolutely.
handle it, guess what she gonna do? She gonna call me because we got a
Absolutely.
partnership. We're co-parenting. And this is the last
Amen.
point right here. And we out of here. This is the last point. And Doc, you can hit this one right quick. If you can hit it in about 3 minutes, then we'll give us a good exit. And then we're gonna go 3 minutes. Practice communicating better. Practice communicating better. What would you say to people that are co-parenting, that are parenting? How would you say practice? How would you address this whole parenting practice communicating better?
Communication is the number one foundation of everything. Like, you know, we talked about earlier, and just in a general statement point, and going into the word power, life, and death, you know, is in the tongue. So, I mean, number one thing, be respectful. You know, being respectful to one another, especially in the point of how can a child learn respect if we don't show them
Absolutely.
respect and then show each other respect?
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for
You
saying
know, how can they ever do that? You know, the thing is, we don't want them to be like us, but we want them to model what is right.
that. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we want them to go out, and then too, when they leave your home, or when they leave, whether you're together or not, when they leave you, they're a representation of who you are. They don't
Absolutely.
have to be like you, but they're a representation of who you are. And again, the idea is that you want each generation thereafter to be better than your generation or
Yes,
the
sir.
ones that have preceded you. You know, which brought to the point of what I said earlier. My goal and my desire, my call right now is to eradicate generational curses in my side of the family. My wife, I've talked to her about that, to eradicate the ones, because I watch how her family communicates. I've watched how mine has communicated, and things of that nature. And not to say that it's all been grand. It hasn't been all great. So communication is essential. If I yell, then what you think my son gonna do? He's gonna
Absolutely.
yell.
Absolutely.
If I don't speak of my wife as a queen, even on the days when she makes me upset, if I still don't say, baby, I love you, then the thing is, how my son gonna ever know how to love his mama or love any woman? And the thing is, just like with my daughter, we've had a little hardship, but still on January 9th, I still sent her a message. It doesn't matter about our hardships. I love you.
Wow.
So that's the whole idea of it. Is the thing is, my son, 28 years old, texts me every other day, if not every day. Good morning, Pops. Let's go hard to the paint. The idea of it is that's what I've always told him. I love you.
Wow.
So many men, especially black fathers, we don't want to show what tears look like. We don't want to show what love really looks like, because a lot of us don't understand what it is, because we've been taught don't show it, don't express it, don't articulate it, because the thing is weakness. No, weakness is not as being able to cry in front of another man and not being afraid or ashamed of it, not being afraid or ashamed to cry in front of your woman. Because the thing is, you being transparent and showing your deepest emotions from your heart. Your heart has 4 times as much energy as your brain.
Jesus.
Put your mind behind you and put your heart ahead of you. Because God loves you for your heart, not for your mind. So the thing is, that's what we have to do, is communicate better with each other as parents, whether you're married or you're divorced. When we're co-parenting, or when we're in this house together or outside of the house, however it may be, if there's a stepmother or stepfather, one accord, one mission, one plan, one destiny, one purpose.
That's it.
That's what it has to be.
Yeah.
That's it. Give me your final words right quick, Kevin. And then we're gonna Kevin, we're gonna go Reggie, then we're gonna go Pastor C, and then I'll give my last little remarks. We'll be out here. Go ahead, Kevin.
First thing and then foremost, thank you so much, James, for having me on the panel this evening and for allowing me to just voice and share. Um, I thank each and every brother here that's been on this panel with me, for being transparent, being honest, being direct, and everyone that's been in attendance tonight. I hope that we have touched your heart, your mind, and your spirit. But not only that, if you've shared it, I hope it hits another ear to change another life.
Mm,
So
mm.
I love you all, and I thank you for this time.
That's good. Go ahead. Give me. What's up, Reggie?
Same thing, man. Thank you, James, for having me on, man. Thank you guys for for your words today. Definitely picked up some key pointers, man, that I'm gonna try to use. Definitely the communication part. That's one of the big things now. I know with the relationship that I'm in now, man, the communication. So definitely need to work on that on my part, man. But just want to thank you. Thank everybody, man. Definitely thank you, Pastor, for the word, man. Definitely had some key points.
Bless you.
Definitely gonna be tuning into your services, man. Like the way you preach, so I definitely want to
He's special,
think of
man.
that. Also to you, Kevin, probably want to be coming in trying to get my spine checked out. And
Yeah.
family and that, man. But just want to thank you guys. Thank you, James, again, man, for introducing me to these two young men, man.
We'll get together again. This would not be the last time you'll be on. Trust me.
So thank you, man. I
This would
definitely want
not.
to say thank you to that.
No problem. Corey.
Yeah, I want to communicate the same thing. It's been a joy, Kevin and Reginald, to be on the panel with both of you. It's just a joy to see black men doing well and with their heads on straight and really in touch with this fathering thing. You know,
Excuse me.
it's it's important, and me saying that is an understatement. But it's been a joy to be with you all, and James, man, just thank you for the courage to deal with these tough issues and having conversations in a public forum. Um, that um, in the side of inside of intelligence, not just loose, raggedy, conversation, but these brothers are intelligent, they're articulate, and they are living in and dealing with these issues. And so you're just to be commended, man. And again, I'm humbled by you asking me to be part of it. I'm glad that we're friends and have been so since the late 80s.
Yeah.
1989 is
Yeah.
how long the friendship between you and I have. It's just a joy, man, to still be able to call you brother. And thank all of those who were on tonight too. Hopefully, you all were helped by something that either of us or all of us have said tonight.
If you're in the chat and you're a member of Bethel, let me know who you are. Put what do y'all call yourselves at Bethel, Pastor? What do you call you? Bethelites? What do y'all call each other?
Yeah, Bethelites.
If you're a Bethelite or you're from New York or from Harlem in that area, please, Brooklyn, let me know you're in the chat. Just say something, drop a 1 or drop a heart or drop something, a Pastor C or we love Pastor C or something like that. But drop that in the chat and let me know that you're there. But I want to, what's up, Corey? Corey, he's been very, let me say be respectful, model right behavior, represent, communicate. That's what Corey said that we should do with our children. Listen, we're going to continue to have these conversations. The name of my show is The Intellectual Stew. Okay, so I want to have intellectual conversations. So I want to have intellectual people on. I don't want to get caught up in the minutia of, relationships. It's easy to highlight the negatives. Everybody can do that, right? So I want to start really focusing on what should, not just what is, but what should be. And if we can do that, then we could change, change people a little bit at a time. Somebody told me, man, why are you doing all that mess? You need to be worried about preaching. I am preaching. This is a whole nother form of preaching. And Corey, you know what? I know the laws. I know how to execute hermeneutics. I know homiletics. I promise I can put a sermon together. I can close a little bit too. All those things, right?
You can. I've heard you do
it. Not like you though. I'm working on it.
Come on.
But look at here though. If we can have these 2-hour conversations, listen to these questions in the chat, listen to people's personal problems. Be transparent, Pastor. That's what I told you. I said, man, they're gonna see you. Remember when I text you? I said they're gonna see you in a whole nother light, right? Because we just want to have just organic, transparent conversation. We made mistakes. I've made some mistakes, man. I'm divorced. Apparently, I made some mistakes.
Surely.
Apparently, I've made some mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I'm transparent enough to realize and to admit that I made. Would I prefer to still be at home in the house with yes, I would. You know what I'm saying? Am I worried about when I see her romantically involved with God? Yeah, I know it might break my heart, but it is what it is. Dog. It is what it is. I think I'm delivered now, y'all. I think I'm healed. Pray for me. I'm joking. No, I'm not really. But I'm still under construction. But no, listen, for real. We have this show. We did Tuesday night this week, but normally we're on Monday nights. I didn't want to fight with Alabama and Georgia last night. Thank you, Kevin, for reminding me of that. So we did tonight. Next week we'll be back on Monday. 9:00 will be our normal time. Coach Reggie, I might have to call you back next week because we're doing a show on coaching next week. And
hey, man, just let me know. I'm ready.
Yeah, we're going to do coaching and its effect on children growing up. So we're going to do first 2 or 3 shows. I want men leading, and then I'll bring my panel back, my Monday night live crew. I'll bring them back in February. But I want men, and I want to paint us, and I want some good coaches. I ain't gonna lie, and I'll take some coach to task. I ain't gonna lie, all that yelling and stuff. You can't do my kids like that. You're not, and I didn't let them do it. I stopped them because I know they didn't respond to it because they didn't respond to me like that. So, but thank you all. Listen, if you want to get more information, you can find us on YouTube at The Intellectual Stew with James Kirkland, or you can go to our website, theintellectualstew.com. If you're looking for any merchandise, like our shirts, On the Path to Better, that's my hashtag. You see that going across the bottom there, On the Path to Better. If you want to get any type of our merchandise, all you have to do is go to our website and you can find it. Corey, I'm going to have you a shirt coming in the mail this week. I just need to get your size because I want
Come on
to
with it.
thank you for participating. You want a hoodie or you want a shirt or t-shirt?
Either one, large.
Well, guess what? This is a large hoodie right here.
Come on with it.
All right, send me your address in my inbox. It's coming to you, right? Okay, that's a large hoodie. It's already done, so that'll be yours. Doc, I know you already got your uniform, so what I need you got.
I need one with these color. I need some red.
You want red and white.
Red and white.
And Reggie, we're gonna meet up. Reggie, we're gonna meet up in the next week or so too. I need your size, and I'm gonna get y'all. So next time y'all come on, y'all will be able to be in uniform with your On the Path to Better shirts on, because that's our hashtag. Our hashtag is On the Path to Better, and that's what I want us to focus on. Now, if anybody wants to be a blessing to what we're trying to do, of course, you're welcome to give to the Cash App. I do put that out there. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm trying to work. It's some other things that I want to do. And I will eventually. But until then, I want you all to remember one thing, and I always say this whenever I close out a show. I say these words right here, that the world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for joining in.